Oh, good. It's already working. Just want to see. Can you guys still see me? That's the only thing I don't know. If I make this big. Oh, goody. Big light off. If I turn that off, I'm gonna fall asleep. We know how I am. All right, so we're gonna look back on some old videos of mine. Let's get into it. Oh, I didn't push play. I forgot I did that.
I found a lost little girl at a Halloween attraction. God, I wish we hadn't changed our Halloween routine last year. For 3 years, ever since they have been old enough, we have done the same thing. Go trick-or-treating in the village with some of my daughter's school friends. Last year, we decided to mix it up a little and try a little local Halloween attraction. The girls are a bit older now, so we thought we could up the scare factor. We live in Yorkshire, England, and a manor house near us put on an event each year. There is a spooky forest walk, a haunted maze, pumpkin carving, the works. The highlight is the ghost tour. The house has a long and bloody history. Murders, assassinations, and suicides have all taken place there. Actors take you around the house and grounds to bring the macabre events to life. Tickets are expensive and limited, so we were really looking forward to it. It is pitch black by 5 p.m. at that time of year. It was a bleak, miserable day with driving rain and a biting wind. A small road takes you to the forlorn and uninviting gatehouse. with its carved stone gargoyles and high spiked wrought iron fence. A track then leads to the house through a dark and foreboding stretch of woodland before opening up to provide the first vista of the manor house. A dark cintille alone on its hill. A gray stone monolith, master of all of its surveys from its lonely isolation. It has a haunting beauty, the type that drives men to murder and worse. Scarecrows had been set up along the side of the track, each pointing the Halloween revelers to their fate. Every head a carved and lit lantern of increasingly gruesome intricacy. I will say this now, we have grown blasé to the sight of a jack-o'-lantern, a symbol of candy and fun now. But here, on a bleak Yorkshire hillside, they instilled a primal fear, their leering faces shifting and alive in their flickering candlelight. In the short drive through the covering of the woods, the weather had changed dramatically. An eerie stillness had replaced the buffeting winds, and as so often the case at this time of year, the ground had given up its moisture to form a thick mist that blanketed the earth, reaching out with wispy trundles and beginning to climb the trees and outbuildings. The children sat in uncharacteristic silence, and I wondered if this was a little much for 7- and 5-year-olds. A little much for me, even. Still, once we made it to the parking area, the mood changed. People were walking around in costume, and the area glowed warmly with the light of hundreds of pumpkin lanterns. We got out and blended straight in. I'm a traditionalist, so it's a zombie costume every year for me. I say costume, but truly all I do is cut up whatever clothes my expanding waistline have made too cozy and liberally douse them with fake blood. The girls dress as a devil and a witch, and as Elsa, with Dia del Muerte-style face paint. My daughters have eccentric tastes and are far too opinionated for their own good. They get it from their mother. It was worth the steep ticket price. The girls carved pumpkins and the haunted maze was a blast. Everyone loves a hog roast, and there were hot, baked cinnamon apples. The night was going great, and everyone gathered for the ghost walk. I was skeptical before the event, but I have to say being there on that foggy Yorkshire night in such a bleak setting really added to things. The actors were excellent. Sometimes these things get hammed up too much, but they really nailed it. The stories were fascinating and gruesome in an equal measure. People really can do the most horrific things to each other. We were out of the house, heading towards the hanging cottage, when my eldest whispered those fateful words that all parents dread on trips out. Daddy, I have to poop. Going back to the house was a non-starter. It was too far, and we would miss the rest of the tour. We quickly headed into the thicket of trees at the side of the track. We could catch up to the group easily enough. We only went in a little way, just enough to get us out of sight of the group. It was dark and tangled. I used my mobile phone as a torch, its meager light allowing us to navigate. We finished and cleaned up. Wet wipes are a parent's best friend, and we're about to head back to the group when I heard crying. It was very close, just a little further into the woods. I took my daughter's hand. We'd better see what this is in case someone needs help. The noise was easy to follow despite the oppressive overgrowth, and we arrived at an arched gateway, part of an old crumbling wall. The gate itself hung crookedly from just one of its 3 hinges. It was a small graveyard, presumably for manor house family members back in the day. The tombstones were ancient, bent crooked as hags at all angles where the earth had moved and subsided over the years. The blanket of fog was so thick it covered our feet as we walked. At the far end, we could see a small figure behind one of the headstones. It was small, plain stone, and unmarked. No engraved name. So, for one, if anybody's curious, this light right here is a solar light that I put in so I could see my dog when he was in the backyard when I was at my ex's house. Also, the other thing, the cackling, crackling fire in the background. Yeah, it's an overlay. I couldn't hear the fire that was burning in front of me, so there's that. Can't believe everything you see on the internet. I just wanted to honor its resident corpse. Hello, are you okay? I asked. The figure turned. It was a little girl, about my daughter's age. Her costume was excellent, old-fashioned clothes from the 1960s maybe. But it was the makeup that made it. Her skin was marble white, her eyes ringed in black, and blood-ringed tear streaks ran down her cheeks. Across her throat, an incredibly realistic slash with just the right amount of fake blood trickling from it. She didn't reply. "Are your mummy or daddy here?" I asked again. Nothing. She just looked down at the floor. I noticed she had on one of the wristbands we all received on the way in. It had a space for writing a parent's phone number on for just such an occasion. "What's your name, little one?" Still no reply. "Can I look at your wristband, please, sweetheart? See if I can call your parents?" She held up her arm. Her skin was icy to touch when I held it to see the number clearly. Poor thing, I took off my jacket and draped it around her whilst I dialed. It was a landline number, which worried me. The parents would have to be at home to take the call, which would be impossible if they were here for the night. The phone rang 3 times. Then, "Hello?" croaked an old-sounding voice, a grandfather perhaps. The line was crackly and poor, reception not great in this remote location. "Hi, can I just check I've dialed the correct number, please? Is this 01936416428? I wanted to make sure I was talking to the right person before giving out details of a lost child." "Hello, can you speak up?" he asked. He sounded so old, not what I was expecting at all. I repeated myself slowly, and this time he confirmed I had called the right number. "I found a little girl who was lost." This was the number on her wristband. "Are you missing your daughter or granddaughter?" I said. "I don't have a daughter. I don't have any children," he replied. "She's about 6 or 7, all dressed for Halloween, vintage 60s clothes and a slashed neck." There was a long pause. I thought he hadn't heard me, and I was about to repeat myself when he started to speak. "I didn't. It wasn't. I never meant it to be like that, to happen that way. Sir, is this your child?" She looked so perfect. I wanted her to be mine, but then she struggled. "How did you know it was me? All those years, how did you find me now?" I stood in silence. My mind was reeling. I wasn't sure what was happening, what I was hearing. Suddenly, from behind us in the clearing, the evocative hoot of an owl and a flapping of wings. I turned, momentarily distracted. When I turned back, the girl was gone. My coat lay draped over the gravestone. Written on the previously unmarked stone and fresh blood was the name Sally Turnbull. In my shock, it took a moment to register that the phone had gone dead. I spent a panicked few minutes looking for the little girl, eventually conceding defeat. I took a photo of the gravestone before scooping my daughter onto the shoulders and running back to find the main group. Every time I tried to redial the man's number, the phone gave an engaged tone, as though the phone were off the hook. The evening was drawing to a close anyway, so it wasn't long before I was telling my wife about the incident in the car. My wife Googled the name Sally Turnbull. She found an article from a few years ago in the local paper talking about the tragic and unsolved case of a 6-year-old Sally who went missing in 1967. We agreed we should call the police, hoping that somehow this was all some elaborate Halloween prank. They didn't come out until the next morning. Halloween is a busy night for the police. They took a statement, and I saw the annoyed look on their face when I pulled up the photo of the gravestone on my phone, and it was unmarked stone. There was no name written on there. They asked my daughter what happened, and that didn't help. She told them that she and Daddy had been in the woods so she could go to the toilet, but that she couldn't hear the crying that I could. She said she didn't see a little girl in the private cemetery, just Daddy looking at a gravestone before putting his jacket on it. The police gave me a lecture about wasting police time, but I insisted they took down the number I had dialed and agreed to follow up on it. I thought they were humoring me until 3 weeks later when I got a call from the office who had visited us. She said that they identified the number I had dialed as belonging to Mr. Brian Carter, a retired widower who lived a couple of villages away. The police went to his house as a routine follow-up, but after getting no response and based on an overpowering smell coming from the small cottage, forced entry. Brian was found hanging in his lounge, next to him still beeping the phone, its receiver on the floor. He had written 2 words on a pad, "I'm sorry," and a police had timed his death as within an hour of the phone call I made to him on that Halloween night. That was a pretty intense story. Pretty intense. I can't imagine. Wow. especially on Halloween. Crazy shit happens on Halloween, though. All right, well, on that note, if you guys like this story, please give me a like and follow me for more videos like this.
Oh my God. What is seriously going on? Please make a choice before exiting. Sure. Back to what I was doing.
The Winchester Mystery House. The Winchester Mystery House is one of the most famous haunted houses in America, with enough of a following to date for daily public tours. The house, now a historical landmark, is located in San Jose, California, and building started in 1883 and didn't end until Sarah Winchester's death 38 years later in 1922. So why so long and to the tune of $5.5 million? Because ghosts told her to do so. Sarah was the heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune. She originally lived in New Haven and prior to moving to California, lost both her only child Annie and then her husband John. Deeply grieving, she turned to a medium for solace and information. The medium told her that her husband was present and that there was a curse in the family which took her husband and daughter's lives because of the many people who died from the Winchester gun. He then told her that the only way to prevent her own death was to move west and build a house for the spirits. But there was a catch to this plan. If she stopped working on the house, the curse would take her life. So Sarah did exactly that. She left her home in New Haven and headed to California under ghost guidance, where she bought a large plot of land and started construction on her Victorian home. While she lived in that ever-growing behemoth, she continued her seances to her husband and other spirits. She had a bell tower added and would ring it to summon the spirits at night, and ring it again to dismiss them.
There's no bells no more. Do they still have the bell
It was
tower?
said that
Hold on. Do they still have the bell tower? It's the Winchester. Yes. The bell tower is still present. I wonder if they still ring it though. Okay, so anyways, answered my question. They do still have it.
she built a seance room in the middle of the house and would enter it alone to conduct her communications. The mental stability of Sarah was in question because of the very odd design of the house. Doors were joined to windows, numerous staircases with 13 steps each that often led nowhere but the ceiling. Doors opened to brick walls, double layered skylights, double back hallways, doors that just dropped off to the landscaping below, upside down stair posts, and so on. Sarah claimed that these oddities were to confuse the bad spirits that had used the Winchester gun to kill. No one ever figured out her fascination with 13, the steps totaling 13, the 13th bathroom having 13 windows, 13 drain holes in the kitchen sink. Most windows had 13 panes of glass. There were 13 cupolas in the greenhouse. The walls had 13 panes, and the list goes on. Some of the current haunting evidence include pages turning on their own, organs playing by themselves, banging doors, voices, dancing spots of light, cold spots, and actual sightings of fog-like people. After her husband's death from tuberculosis in 1881, Sarah inherited more than $20.5 million, equivalent to $550 million in 2020. She also received nearly 50% ownership of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, giving her an income of roughly $1,000 per day, equivalent to $27,000 a day in 2020. After her infant daughter died of an illness known as marasmus, a children's disease where the body wastes away, and her husband died of pulmonary tuberculosis.
I'm only laughing as I swear to God I can't pronounce words that never changed. I told you.
Some said she may have simply sought a change of setting and something to keep her occupied during her lengthy depression. However, others maintain that she believed she must move west and continuously build a house, the sounds of whose construction would keep at bay the spirits of those who had fallen to her late husband's firearms. In 1884, she purchased an unfinished farmhouse in the Santa Clara Valley and began building a mansion. Carpenters were hired and worked on the house day and night until it rose to 7 stories. Eschewing architects, she directed the additions herself, augmenting the building in a haphazard fashion. As a result, contains numerous oddities such as doors and stairs that go nowhere, windows overlooking other rooms, and stairs with oddly sized razors. Environmental psychologists have theorized that the house's odd layout itself contributes to the feeling that it was, and perhaps still is, haunted. Before the 1906 earthquake, the house had been 7 stories high, and carpenters may have brought in initially to repair damage caused by the quake. Today, it is only 4 stories. The house is predominantly made of red wood, as Miss Winchester preferred the wood. However, she disliked the look of it. She therefore demanded that a fox grain and stain be applied. This is why almost all the wood in the home is covered. Approximately 20,500 U.S. gallons, or 78,000 liters, of paint were required to paint the house. The home itself is built using a floating foundation that is believed to have saved it from the total collapse in the 1906 earthquake and the 1989 Luma Paretta earthquake. This type of construction allows the home to shift freely as it is not completely attached to its brick base. There are roughly 161 rooms, including 4 bedrooms, 2 ballrooms, 1 completed and 1 unfinished, as well as 47 fireplaces, over 10,000 panes of glass, 17 chimneys with evidence of 2 others, 2 basement levels, and 3 elevators. Winchester's property was about 162 acres at one time, but the estate has since been reduced to 4.5 acres, the minimum necessary to contain the house and nearby outbuildings. It has gold and silver chandeliers, hand inlaid parquet floors in trim, and a vast array of colors and materials. Due to Miss Winchester's debilitating arthritis, special easy riser stairways were installed as a replacement for her original steep construction. This allowed her to move about her home freely as she was only able to raise each foot a few inches. There was only one working toilet for Winchester. It has been said that all other restrooms were decoys to confuse spirits, and that this is also the reason why she slept in a different room each night. The home's conveniences were rare.
I forgot about the one bathroom thing. How are you gonna have 40 bedrooms, but you only have one bathroom that works? They're all decoys.
At the time of its construction. These included steam and forced air heating, modern indoor toilets and
Probably
plumbing,
look good.
push button gas lights, and Miss Winchester's personal and only hot shower from indoor plumbing. There are
It's a
also
bell
3
tower.
elevators, including an Otis electric, and one of which was powered by a rare horizontal hydraulic elevator piston. Most elevator pistons are vertical to save space, but Winchester preferred the improved functionality of the horizontal configuration. The Winchester Mystery House has been a place I've wanted to visit for a good portion of my life. I do plan on one day going to see it and look around and just get a feel for the atmosphere, because talking about it, watching videos are two different things than going there and it's experiencing the feeling of the atmosphere. Um, After all the research I've done on it, I'm pretty interested. I'm pretty intrigued. I think more so than I was before. And that's kind of how I want to do these videos, is I want to investigate it, learn about the history, and then one day in the near future go and visit the place and record my adventure of doing that. Um, I really hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this, please subscribe. And also leave a comment and let me know what paranormal or crime related mystery you would like me to investigate next. All right. Well, you guys have a great day. Thank you. And have a good one.
Oh, I don't know if I can do it. Oh, so flippin' tired. How long have we been on now? Probably more than a half hour. So I was playing around before I came on. I thought this told me my run time too. I did. We're a half hour in. I love it. I love it. It tells me right here on the chat side.
Union Station. This railroad depot, built in Kansas City in 1914, spans 850,000 square feet. It is the third largest railroad station in the world. At its peak, it welcomed over 200 trains a day. The Kansas City Massacre. It is said in 1933 a violent gun battle between federal agents, local police, and 3 high-profile gangsters resulted in the Union Station being haunted by one very tormented soul. It was a warm summer morning in June when Frank Nash stepped off a train wearing handcuffs. Federal Agent Lackey, Chief Reed, and Agent Smith accompanied Nash on the train. Nash had a long criminal record that had landed him in prison 3 times. In 1913, he was sentenced to a life term in Oklahoma. He spent 5 years at the state penitentiary at McAlester. He then was pardoned. 5 years later, in 1920, he was given a 25-year sentence for burglary and the use of explosives. Again, he was pardoned. Shortly after being released, he was arrested and charged with assault. He again was sentenced to a 25-year term. This time he was sent to the federal penitentiary at Leavenworth, Kansas. In 1930, Nash escaped. The FBI launched an investigation and Nash was captured in Hot Springs, Arkansas. 3 friends of Nash's, Charles Arthur, Pretty Boy Floyd, Vernon Miller, and Adam Ricchetti, were waiting outside Union Station in a stolen car the morning of June 17th when Nash arrived at 7:15 a.m. They intended to help him escape once more. Special Agent Vertelli met Agent Lackey at the station along with Agent Caffrey and 2 police officers, Grooms and Hermanson. These 7 armed men then escorted Nash through the station's lobby. Once outside, none of the officers noticed a green Plymouth parked close by. Caffrey unlocked the right side back passenger door of his Chevrolet sedan, but Lackey placed Nash in the front passenger seat instead. Lackey then climbed in and sat in the back seat behind the driver. Agent Smith sat in the center front seat next to Nash, and Chief Reed took the seat behind Nash. Verletti, Grooms, and Hermanson stood outside the car as Caffrey moved toward the driver's seat. The officers barely had time to react as Miller and Floyd approached the car and opened fire using revolvers and a machine gun. Verletti, outside the car, managed to shout, "Let them have it," as the 2 gangsters shot and killed Grooms and Hermanson. Vertelli was wounded in the left arm. Before he could reach the driver's seat, Caffrey was shot in the head and fell to the ground. Vertelli managed to move out of the line of fire. In the car, both Chief Reed and Nash, seated on the left passenger sides, were shot by flying bullets and died. Miller and Floyd made their way to the car only to find their friend dead. Moments later, officers inside the station rushed out. They fired at the 2 men. Floyd was shot, but managed to make it back to the Plymouth. The 3 gangsters then fled the scene. The entire attack lasted less than a minute. Agents Vertelli, Smith, and Lackey all survived the attack. Lackey had been shot 3 times while sitting in the car. The FBI launched a major manhunt for the 3 killers. Miller's body was found mutilated in a ditch outside Newark, New Jersey. He had been strangled and beaten by the gangster Longy Zwillman, who was connected to the crime syndicate Murder Incorporated. The law caught up to Floyd and Ricchetti in Ohio in 1934. The 2 men had crashed their car and were sitting in a garage waiting for it to be repaired when the local police chief, J.H. Foltz, became suspicious. A gunfight ensued, and Ricchetti was apprehended. Floyd escaped despite being wounded. Ricchetti was tried, convicted, and executed for the Kansas City Massacre in 1938. Pretty Boy Floyd was captured in Clarkson, Ohio, but not before he put up a fight. He died of a gunshot wound on the way to the hospital. After the massacre, The atmosphere in the Union Station changed. People began to report feelings of agony overwhelming them. Many visitors and employees started to notice a strange form. These witnesses saw a faceless man figure in various places around the building. Many feel this must be the restless spirit of Frank Nash. Another sighting is that old-fashioned male shoes that are polished. When witnesses look up, there is no form attached to them. Others report seeing these shoes just vanish into thin air. Numerous people over the years have seen a male figure that just appears. Today, Union Station's West Wing is used by the U.S. Postal Service. Other areas of this historic building are used for high-end cafes, shops, and for art displays. Wedding receptions are often held at the old station. Several of the guests at these receptions have witnessed the male form that just fades away. Conspiracy. A number of outlaw friends of Nash had heard of his capture in Hot Springs. They learned the time of the scheduled arrival of Nash and his captors in Kansas City and made plans to free him. The scheme was conceived and engineered by Richard Tolman, Galatas, Herbert Farmer, Doc Lewis Stacy, and Frank B. Mulroy. Vernon Miller was designed to free Nash, and while at Mulroy's Tavern in Kansas City, he made a number of phone calls for assistance in the scheme. According to the official FBI report, Charles Prettyboy Floyd and his sidekick Adam Ricchetti arrived in Kansas City to aid in the mission. According to the FBI report, Floyd and Ricchetti happened to be on the way to Kansas City, but had been detained at Bolivar, Missouri, early on the morning of the 16th, when the car in which they were riding became disabled. While the two were waiting in a local garage for the necessary repairs to the car, Sheriff Jack Killingsworth entered the building. Ricchetti, who immediately recognized the sheriff, seized a machine gun and held the sheriff and the garage attendants up against the wall. Floyd drew two .45 caliber machine pistols and ordered all parties to remain motionless. Floyd and Ricchetti then transferred their arsenal into another automobile and ordered the sheriff to enter that vehicle. The two, along with their prisoner, drove to Deepwater, Missouri, abandoned that automobile, and commandeered another. After releasing the sheriff, they arrived in Kansas City about 10 p.m. on June 16th. There, Floyd and Ricchetti abandoned that automobile and stole another car, to which they transferred their baggage and firearms. Finally, that same night, they met Miller and went with him to his home. There, Miller told of his plan to free Frank Nash. Early the next morning, according to the FBI account, Miller, Floyd, and Ricchetti drove to Union Station in a Chevrolet sedan. There they took up their positions to await the arrival of Nash and his captors. The aftermath. The FBI immediately initiated an investigation to identify and apprehend the gunman. The investigation developed evidence that the scheme was carried out by Vernon C. Miller, Adam C. Ricchetti, and Prettyboy Floyd. The evidence included latent fingerprint impressions located by FBI agents on beer bottles in Miller's Kansas City home and identified as those of Adam Ricchetti, thus helping to link the latter to the crime. Crimes of Innocence. The FBI account, including Floyd's involvement, has been disputed in 3 books. Joe Urschel's The Year of Fear, 2015, Robert Unger's Union Station Massacre, The Original Sin of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, 1997, and Michael Wallace Floyd biography, Pretty Boy, 1994. The authors believe that Floyd and Ricchetti were framed by the FBI. The matter is likely to remain highly controversial, as evidence against the two is far from conclusive. Urschel and Wallace maintain that the massacre is completely out of character with the rest of Floyd's known career. Additionally, longtime underworld figure Blackie Audit wrote in Rap Street, 1954, that Floyd and Ricchetti weren't involved, and that the other 2 gunmen were really Maurice Denning and William Soley Wiseman. Brian Burrow, author of Public Enemies, America's Greatest Crime Wave and the Birth of the FBI, 1933 through 1934, in 2007, asserts that Floyd almost certainly was guilty of taking part in the massacre, citing the testimony of several underworld informants arrested by the FBI. However, their testimony has been contradicted by those of other informants and witnesses. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. What paranormal or crime related mystery would you like to see next? I hope you all have a great day.
There's two more. I can't. You guys already know it's past my bedtime. How long have we been recording now? 40 minutes. Good enough. We'll have extra videos for the next one then. That way I won't have to do so much moving around and whatnot. But anyways, I'll have a couple of head start. On that note, like I said, it's become my spiel. It's evolved, but it's still my spiel. On that note, if